Hello everyone, I am Purushottam Thakur. I'll be giving you few suggestion and guideline for your upcoming examination. But before to that, let's try to see the question pattern. Your paper 1 that is of 70 marks. Paper 2 30 marks that you have already appeared. Paper 1 70 marks. Spelling is quite wrong out here, MARKS, okay, anyway. Part 1 which is of 20 marks, okay. In part 1 there will be altogether 20 question of 1 marks each. Part 2 will be divided into, that will be of 50 marks, 50 plus this 20, 70 marks. Part 2 50 marks is subdivided into, okay, section A, section B and section C. Section A, there will be 7 question of 2 marks each. That means altogether there will be 14 marks, okay, 14 marks question. That means 7 question of 2 marks each. That means you have to see the question and the marks, and according to that you have to write the answer. Section B, there will be also 7 question of 3 marks each. That means each question will be of 3 marks. So see the question properly and the marks, and according to that answer it, okay. Section C, there will be altogether 3 question and each question will be of 5 marks each. So looking at the question and the marks that has been given, okay, intended marks, according to that you need to write down. Like say for example in section A, it is of 2 marks, but you are writing 1 page, 2 page, although you write 1 page, 2 page or half page, okay, and there you will not find any points at all, then it will be meaningless. So even if you are writing half page, 1 page, you have to write meaningful and to the point, okay. So don't get carried away by looking at the term or question and then you start writing. Look at the marks and according to that write the answer. Now in part 1, where there will be 20 question of 1 marks each, what type of question can be there, okay. So basically like it can be answer the question briefly, okay, but you have to understand here it is of 1 marks. So according to that only write the answer. Number two can be either say it can be give reason, okay, give reason type, it can be give reason type. 3, either it can be give the function, okay, or give the exact location, okay, give the exact location, choose the correct option, and sometimes it may be also choose the correct option and rewrite, okay. Sometimes choose the correct option only will be given, and sometimes what will given, choose the correct option and rewrite the statement, okay. Then sometimes it can be give the contribution of the following scientist, give the contribution of the following scientist, then expand the following Okay, like IPM, integrated pest management, this way. Or besides this, it may be any objective question which will be around how many question? 20 question of 1 marks each. Okay. Sometimes also differentiate the following term also may come. So objective part will cover up the entire part of the chapters, entire part of the syllabus. So you have to go thoroughly through each and every chapters. Then only you can write this, you can attempt this question, you can do it properly. Okay. Rest part 2, which is of 50 marks, it is subjective, and when it is subjective, according to the marks, write the answer. Okay. 2 marks, no need to write half page, 1 page, 2 page, like that. Okay. According to the marks, you write the answer. Now for this, how you need to prepare your examination? You need to prepare it according to the question pattern. So the best preparation for tomorrow is doing your best today. How you prepare? Okay, your preparation, your success, your good result depends upon how you prepare. So for that, there are certain types of mistake which the student make. So today few suggestion and guideline I will be telling you, which the student very often they do it. Okay. So first of all, you see, do not leave any question unanswered. Try to at least recap the things, recap those things which are taught by your teachers. Okay, where you have gone through it properly, remember it properly, and then try to answer it. Try maximum to answer the question. Number 2, start with any question, but the sub question will have to be done in the proper order. Okay, will have to be done in the proper order. What I mean to say, suppose say it is question number 1 A. Okay, question number 1 B, or it can be either question number 1, this one, Roman letter 1, or question number 1, 2, like this. So suppose say if question number 7, if it is A, then write A only. If it is question number 7, Roman letter 1, then write 1 only. Whichever question you attempt, but when you are writing in any other pages, if you are writing, suppose, do it accordingly. Best way is do accordingly. But even if you have missed out and if you want to do it, then write the correct question number with the subparts properly. Number 3, write the question number as given. Just now what I told you was number 3. Number 4, leave a line after every answer. After every answer means, suppose say you have finished question number 7A, you have finished question number 1, one part, then leave a line. It's not that one line you write, another line you leave. Then I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about after completion of one question, then you leave a line, then again question number 1, second part, then again you complete it, you finished it, leave a line there. Sometimes what will happen, most of the students, what do? They do not leave the line, and more or less what happens, it becomes a mess for the examiner to correct your paper. Your presentation of the answer should be, your paper should be good enough. Number 5, don't write beyond the printed margin on the right. Okay, in your paper, this side will be there. Okay, and here do not write is written. Here don't continue with your writing up to this. Okay, don't write out here. Beyond the margin only, here only you need to write it. Don't cross the margin. Above margin also don't write here also. Below the margin also, where your single line is over and then you find a small blank space, here also don't write, here also don't write. Write where the rule side is there only you write. Wherever the margins are there, don't write. Most of them, they continue it. You will be getting enough continuation sheet. So try to ask that continuation sheet, and in the continuation sheet also write the proper order. Next one, don't change the ink color. Okay, carry pens having the same ink color, blue or black. If you are starting with the blue, finish it with blue. Carry extra pen. Okay, if you have started with the black, end it with black only. But some of the students, what do? One answer blue, another answer with black, a question with blue, then answer with black. Like that they do it. What you do? You carry out with one pen only. Number 7, don't use whiteners. Any spelling mistake, any line you have done a mistake. What you do? You simply put a line out there. If you make a mistake, cancel it by drawing a line with your pen or a pencil. With a pen or a pencil, just put a line out there. Okay. Suppose say this is wrong. You are cancelling it like this. With pen or pencil, then continue it. Don't use whiteners and all. It looks very untidy. Next one, carry your own stationery. You know that you have to keep yourself hygienic. Okay. You have to maintain the hygiene properly. And on top of that, you will be appearing when your lockdown is still being continued also. And you see that because of this pandemic, everyone needs to keep their hands sanitized. So therefore, you try to carry your own stationeries. Number 9, diagram and labeling must be done only with the pencil. Biology, obviously, many drawings are there. Even if the drawing is not asked also, you see that some of the in some of the question, you have to present your answer, you have to put the graphs, you have to put the diagram, you have to put a very good illustration. And for that, don't try to draw the diagram with the pen, ink pen. Try to draw with pencil, so that even if you make a mistake, you can rub it. Okay, you can redraw it, and it looks very tidy. Next one, read the question properly. Another thing is that you have to read the question properly. This is very important, because you see that in biology, when you see one term, okay, you start writing it. But what is the question asked? How it is asked? What you are supposed to write? More or less, students, they overlook it. And after writing, they panic. I have written this, the answer was supposed to be that. So main thing is that when you get that 15 minutes, during that 15 minutes, set up your mind which question you have to do, how you have to do, which question you have to do, and what you have to do, what you have to write. Okay, for that, few of the mistakes which the student often make, okay, that I have listed out, and one by one I will be discussing on that. Okay, first of all, case 1. Okay, in this case, you see, each of the following question statement has 4 suggested answer. Choose the correct option and rewrite in each case. First of all, up to here. Okay, up to here. Option, only choose the correct option. Then you see that GUA, okay, guanine, uracil, adenine, GGA, CCA, AUG. Now here what they have asked the question, initiation codon of protein synthesis in eukaryote is which one? Then when you look from here, your correct option is 4, AUG. Okay, correct option is this one. So had the question be up to here, okay, up to here, not this one, not this one. Each of the following question statement has 4 suggested answer. Choose the correct option. Then this would have been right. But what is the continued sentence? And rewrite in each case. Okay, so when rewrite in each case is given, then obviously your correct way of writing will be initiation codon of protein synthesis in eukaryote is AUG. This is the correct way of writing according to the question. Had they have not given rewrite, then according to that your answer is right. But rewrite is given, then you have to rewrite it. Most of the student, although rewrite is given, you leave the answer up to here. Okay. Next one, case 2, differentiate between the following, blastulation and gastrulation. Okay. So blastulation, you see, differentiate is given. Blastulation, rapid mitotic division of zygote. Zygote, after the 2 reproductive cells fuse together, then the zygote gets formed. Then the zygote, what will happen? It will start multiplying, it will start dividing it. That what do you call it? You call it the number of cells will get formed, okay, from 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, okay, and what do you call it? You call it as blastulation. Gastrulation, you see, according to this is also right. It is the process of transformation of blastula into gastrula, the 3-germ layer, okay, that is gastrulation. This is also right. But when the question of differentiate between is coming, what it is happening out here? There are no compatible point, okay. Here you see, here rapid mitotic division of zygote, according to this is right. Now next one, slow mitotic division. Now it becomes a compatible point. It is a rapid mitotic division, another one is a slow mitotic division. So these 2 points are compatible points. Although the above sentence for this one is right, that sentence for gastrulation is also right, but you do not have a compatible point, okay. So whenever the differentiate will be coming, always try to keep it in mind, they must be which point? They must be compatible point. Now number 3, write the contribution of the following scientists, okay. DNA fingerprinting. Number 2, you have Lederberg replica plating experiment. So very often what is the type of mistake you do? You do not write the full name of the scientist. In the first cases, you see DNA fingerprinting. It is Alec, you have Alec, many students may write only Alec, but you are not writing the surname, okay. In the second case, Lederberg replica plating experiment, okay. Here you are writing the surname, but you are not writing the first name, okay. So this way it becomes incorrect. So thereby what is the correct way of writing? Now you see the correct way, Alec Jeffrey, okay, Alec Jeffrey. Now this gives the full name. Similarly here you are writing the surname, but you are not writing the first name. And another thing is that both of them co-scientists together experimented on Lederberg replica plating experiment. So who are they? When I say Lederberg replica plating experiment, it was by Joshua Lederberg and Esther M. Lederberg. They are the co-scientists who together did this experiment. So this way, some of the things when you are going through the book, you have to be careful and read it carefully. The next one, here you see case 4, enumerate any 3 major differences between humans and apes, okay. So here you see apes and human, apes slight bent, human erect, small, heavy and protruded, thin and not protruded. Now here it does not give a very clear image, okay, of the answer, like apes, slight bend. What is slight bend? What is small? Which part of the body is heavy and protruded? Similarly, it does not give a clear information about human erect, okay, large, thin and not protruded, okay. It does not give a clear image. So thereby, now you see what is the correct way of writing, okay. Then you see apes and man, posture is slight bent in ape, whereas in man it is erect. Cranium, okay, when I say cranium, then brain box, that is the skull, okay, you call it as cranium. Cranium is, in the apes it is small and in the man it is large enough, okay. Then brow ridges means like this, okay, this part, okay, this part, brow ridges. Heavy and protruded in apes it is heavy and thick, and protruded means it is exposed, it is more or less coming forward, okay. And whereas in man it is thin, this part is thin, okay, this part is thin and not protruded means it is not coming forward, it is not bulging forward, whereas in the apes you will find that it is very much bulging forward. So by this it gives a very clear information regarding what is slight bent, posture slight bent, cranium is small, okay, the brain part, okay, that is the capacity of the brain, cranium. In book it will be cranium capacity also will be written, okay, for 950, 400, 1400 like that is given. I'm talking about that. Brow ridge is heavy protruded. By this it gives a very clear information about the question that is being asked, and according to that your write-up should be somewhat like this. Okay. Next one, case 5, give the exact location of amnion. Okay, whenever this type of question will come, you see that answer is right, uterus. Obviously amnion is found inside the uterus, inside the placenta. But whenever this location will come, then always try to write that here the question is exact location. They are not asking you the location only, no. According to the location it is uterus, placenta is right. But exact location means where is the amnion present? Around the embryo in the uterus. Okay, take for instance, okay, like this structure, like this. Okay, this is the uterus. Okay, endometrium. Now inside here, okay, here, this part. So this one is the uterus. Okay, placenta, this internal part. Okay, this internal part, this internal part. This one is the amnion. So when you are giving the exact location around the embryo, you see this is the embryo, around the embryo in the uterus, inside the uterus. That will give the correct answer for this type of question. So whenever the location will come, always try to see in between. Okay, in between where it is present, then that will give the exact location. Okay, now let's try to see that there are so many questions. Okay, especially I will be dealing with the number of questions that has come in your unit 1. Okay, in your unit 1, okay, these are some of the questions, and then after that I will be discussing. Okay, in your unit 1, that is a reproduction chapter, the total weightage of marks is 16 marks. And here, how many chapters comes under this unit 1? You have reproduction in organism, sexual reproduction in flowering plant, that is angiosperm. Then you have human reproduction, and then reproductive health. There are altogether 4 chapters. From that 4 chapters, what is the total weightage of marks? 16 marks. Okay, 4 chapters, 16 marks. Now from that 4 chapters, the probable question which has been coming for last 10 years, okay, the question that has been very much repeated after consecutive years, okay, some of the question you see that after every 2 years, after 4 years, some are after 5 years. So whichever, I have not listed 1 marks and 2 marks, I have just listed out here the question that is of 3 marks, 4 marks and 5 marks, that I have written, and I have taken 1 slide, otherwise it would have been more slide. Okay, so basically whichever question that has come very often from that chapter and which you need to make a notes out of it, you have to write it properly. Few of the question, like number 1, you see state advantage of vegetative propagation, importance of vegetative propagation. This way it has been, some of the question I have modified also. Okay, because it is more or less asked in different manner, like in some cases state advantage of vegetative propagation, in some cases give importance of vegetative propagation, that way. So it has come 2012, 2016 it has come. Okay, before to that also it has come. So very often it has been repeated, so try to focus on some of the question that has been repeatedly coming. Okay, number 2, from here, give 4 adaptations shown by flowers pollinated by wind and insect. This also has come in the year 2015-16, in the year 2000, in the year 2004, like that it has come. But I have taken from 14, 15, 16 onwards, I have taken whichever is repeated. Number 3, draw a neat and labeled diagram of a mature anatropous ovule before fertilization. Now you have to keep it in mind. There are questions like show the event after pollination. Okay, before fertilization, after fertilization. So this thing you have to keep it in mind. So there are so many drawings, there are so many diagrams which will give you a clear figure of pre-fertilization, post-fertilization. Pre means before the fertilization, post means after the pollination or fertilization. So those diagram you have to have a very clear image, you have to have a very clear figure. So it has, this question has repetitively came in 12 also, 17 also, 18 also, and before to that several times. Number 4, mention function of placenta. Okay, mention function of placenta 2, 4. Okay, either of 2 marks, either of 4 marks. Okay, like that it has come in the year 2003, 7, 10 and 16. Draw a label diagram of the internal structure of human ovary. Okay, mention the role of hormone during menstrual cycle. This question also has repeatedly come, this part. Number 7, give causes of infertility in males in the year 2018. Draw a label diagram of longitudinal section. Also you have to understand, okay, sometimes what will happen, LS will be asked, so you have to give LS. Some of the question, some of the student may draw only the anatomical view, okay, only the dorsal view, ventral view, okay, no longitudinal section. So you will not get the marks for that. So anyway, draw a label diagram of longitudinal section of human testis. This also you have to keep it in your mind. Define spermatogenesis and spermiation. Again, define spermatogenesis. Sometimes what will happen, the process of spermatogenesis and spermation may also be asked, describe. So I have just given define only out here, but sometimes it has also come across describe the process of spermatogenesis also has come. Okay, write short note on amino sentences. Sometimes what will happen, MTP, okay, medical termination of pregnancy of, to write the short notes also has come from this chapter. So these are some of the major questions that has been repeatedly coming, and you need to make note of that, and you have to write according to the marks that has been given. Next, unit 2, that is genetics and evolution. Here the total weightage of marks is 15. In this unit 2, there are altogether 3 chapters. One is principle of inheritance and variation. Another one is molecular basis of inheritance. The third one is evolution. So 3 chapters comes under this unit 2. And what is the total weightage of marks? 15 marks. So here very often which question has been coming repetitively. Okay. Number 1, explain the process of sex determination in honey bee. Okay, in honey bee, like you are able to make out there is a male, there is a queen, okay, and there are the workers and all, how they are formed, okay, how there is a polymorphic. When I say polymorphic means that you are able to make out the male, you are able to make out the female, and you are also able to make out the workers. All of them, they look morphologically different, and it is due to what? Okay, how is sex determined in honeybee? You have to write about that. Explain the mechanism of transcription in prokaryotic cell. Transcription, how that protein is coded in prokaryotic cell. Transcription, the word transcription means to print, okay, to take the message and to give it to the ribosomes for protein synthesis, how it is done, how it is coded for protein synthesis. That is there, number 2. Number 3, describe post-transcriptional processing of RNA in eukaryote. The above one was prokaryote, the lower one is eukaryote. So if you see in the year 2017, transcription in prokaryote has come, and in the year 2018 it has come in the eukaryote. Okay, so you have to have a very clear idea regarding what is the transcription. Okay, how that protein coding takes place in prokaryotic cell, what is the difference, and in the eukaryotic cell. So one, it has come in the year 2017, another eukaryote, it has come in the 2018. According to that, you have to go through it properly. Okay, you have to work out properly. Next one, what is founder's effect? Okay, in that you will come across bottleneck effect also. Okay, so like that, founder's effect has come very often. Number 5, give any character that have developed during human evolution. Okay, so from ape to man, what are the some of the character that you have to give a very comparative analysis of that, how human beings, okay, right from Dryopithecus to Australopithecus and then Cro-Magnon, okay, they are how the modification, what type of modification in the bodily structure has taken place, you need to write about that. Explain the evolution of giraffe neck according to Lamarck theory of evolution. Now in this case, you see that if you go through the different period, era, and so many Cretaceous period in this, you will come across that geological time scale, you will come across giraffe was like a goat. It was the size of a goat. And slowly you see, as time passed by, environmental factors and so many factors are there. There are so many evidences given by the scientist, given by the research scholar regarding the elongation of the neck of a giraffe. What factors favored, what factors did not favor, and according to that you see that there has been a certain modification in the structure of a living organism. So how this long-necked giraffe evolve, and what is Lamarck theory of evolution? You have to write from Lamarck theory of evolution. Okay, so from that point of view, again Darwin has different theory, Hugo de Vries may have different theory, different scientists have their own view, but you have to write the evolution of giraffe neck according to which theory? Lamarck theory, and this has come in the year 2015. Before to that also it has come. Okay. Number 7, give an account of Lederberg replica plating experiment to show the genetic basis of evolution, that bacteria and all, okay, organisms and all, there are resistance, okay, and how do they cope up with the environment, whether environment has an effect on them or not, and how this results in evolution. Okay, and for that Joshua Lederberg, okay, they have performed one experiment, and this is to show that genetically in the genes actually what is the effect by the environmental factor or some other external factor that has been stated. So you have to write according to the question that has been given. Okay, on the basis of evolution only you have to. That means after writing that experimental process, you have to focus on that how it is related to evolution. Okay, number 8, describe how the origin of life from abiotic substances was proved experimentally by Miller and Urey. Okay, Oparin-Haldane theory is there. In that you will come across that how chemogeny, biogeny, different process of chemogeny, biogeny, all the factors took place. So whether this was all hypothesis and all, that hypothesis was put into reality by whom? By Miller and Urey. So in that experiment, you see that a very simple compound was taken. Okay, carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen was taken in a flask. A spark was more or less correlated with the lightning and all. Okay, and then after that you see that a very simple compound, organic compound, aspartic acid, alanine, okay, nucleotides, all this got formed. So thereby it have one evidence that maybe the life originated through this process. So experiment done by Miller and Urey experiment, you have to focus on it. Number 9, describe the different types of natural selection with the help of graph. Okay, natural selection, like you see that you have directional selection, stabilizing selection, disruptive selection. So this question is asked, okay, you have to write about that in this, and this has come in the year 2015, and also before also it has come. Describe lac operand. Okay, lac operand model of this also has come in the year 2015 and 2017. Okay, now come to the unit 3, In the unit 3, you have biology and human welfare. And here, biology and human welfare, you have 3 chapters. Human health and disease, strategies for enhancement in food production, and then you have microbes in human welfare. Okay, 3 chapters are there, and the total weightage of this marks is 14. In this, explain the structure of typical antibody molecule, that Y-shaped structure. One, you have to go through that properly, all that paratope, epitope, that HL, heavy light chain, okay, all that part, the zip-like structure more or less. Mention method involved in the treatment of cancer. This also has come several times, the various procedure for the treatment of cancer, okay, radiotherapy, that chemotherapy, all that part is there, that you have to explain the mechanism of action of T cells on antigens. Any antigens, what is the role of T cells, what do the T cells do, okay, that mechanism you have to write it. Number 4, name the causative organism and preventive measures of the following. Causative organism, scientific name. Okay, like suppose tuberculosis is there, Mycobacterium tuberculosis. Okay, like that, suppose say dysentery is there, Entomoeba histolytica, that is causative organism. Don't simply write only bacteria, virus and all. You have to clearly write that whether it is caused by virus, whether it is caused by protozoa, whether it is caused by bacteria, and the name of the virus, name of the bacteria, name of the protozoa. Okay, that you have to clearly mention. That is causative organism. And preventive measures, how will you prevent it? Okay, of the following. Following means so many it has come. Okay, this flu, influenza, then so many other diseases which is there according to your syllabus, you try to go through it. Number 5, write a short note on multiple evolution embryo transfer technology, MOET. Okay, MOET, multiple evolution embryo transfer technology. This has also come in the form of short notes, short note also very often. Number 6, why are biofertilizer preferred over chemical fertilizer? What is the advantage? That means this question can be asked in different way also. What is the advantage of biofertilizer? Okay, and that you have to write down. Write a short note on integrated pest management, pesticides. You see that it may cause soil pollution, water pollution and air pollution, whatever pollution it causes. So what is the best way that comes up with the integrated pest management? Short note it has come. Then also short notes on single cell protein, okay, biofortification, biogas. So many such type of terms are there in this chapter which has very often come. Okay. Number 8, list application of tissue culture. Tissue culture, why it is being used more or less and why there is so much of demand, how it is done also it has come across, okay, and what is the advantage. List the application, you see list. Okay, this question I am making you acquainted because you see that I will be telling you in some of the question what you exactly you have to write. Okay, so thereby first be acquainted with the type of question that has come. Write short note on green revolution. This also has come and more or less this is very much scoring from this chapter. So anyway, this much for today. Thank you.
Good morning everyone. Today I am here with a special class for class 12 ISC geography students who are going to sit for the exams next month. Okay, at this time of pandemic, I don't know whether the students are still in touch with their textbooks or not, and whether you are in touch with the textbooks or you are not in touch with the textbook. Today I'm here to revise or recap the geography syllabus. Okay, and I'm going to discuss about the format, the question paper, how to answer, what are the things that you have to do and what are the things you don't, you have to avoid doing it. Okay, so I'm going to start with that. Now, ISC 2020 geography. Okay, now first of all, let me just tell you about the question format. Okay, now you have 20 questions in your textbook or in your syllabus. Okay, and that 20 chapters, you are going to get the the question, that format that you have is 70-30. 30 marks practicals, you have already done it. 70 marks theory has been left, okay? And that theory part, the 70 marks theory part, it's been divided into part 1 and part 2. Part 1 is for 30 marks and it's compulsory, and part 2 is for 40 marks. And in that 40 marks, you have to do 4 set of question out of 7. Altogether from 20 chapter, 7 sets of questions are being given, and from there you have to choose 4 set of questions, okay? Now this 30 marks that you have is objective, 20 marks, okay? Objective questions are there, and that's for 20 marks. In this, there are 10 questions that has been given, and each question carries 2 marks, so 10 into 2, that is 20. And the 10 marks is for your map work. Okay, and this part, 30 marks with objective questions and map work is compulsory, has to be attempted. Okay, and one thing I would like to make it clear is that when you are doing your map work, please don't use your color pencils. Try to use only pencils, and if you have to shade and everything that you have to do within your map work, please use your pencils. Okay, and this 30 marks, you have already done it. That was project, practicals and viva, which has already been completed. Okay, this is the question format. And let me tell you, your question paper is for 3 hours. Okay, and for geography, you don't have to write long answers. Read the questions properly. Okay, and you have to write short answers, but answers to the point, highlighting the keywords. Okay, and another important thing that you have to remember is that like when you get your question papers, okay, read the question paper again and again, because first time when you read the question paper, sometimes you may be blank. Okay, you might just not remember the answers, but you take your time, read the question again and again, and then slowly you will understand the question. Okay, you get 3 hours and you have enough time to think about and write it down. Don't be in a hurry. Okay, now before I start with that, let me just give you some general tips. Of course, you have already sat for a few papers and you already know it, but just again, let me generally tell you few things. Okay, first is, do not leave any question unanswered. Try to attempt, if you are attempting any question, like if you do question number 3, question number 3 is then subdivided into A, B, C, D, E and all that. Try to attempt all the questions. Don't leave any questions. Think, write something which makes sense. Okay, start with any questions, but the sub questions will have to be done in the proper order as given below. That means if you choose question number 3, okay, or you choose question number 8, sorry, not 8, question number 7 or question number 8, but when you're answering, if you're choosing question number 8, you have to do 8A, B, C, D. You can't do question number 8A and then go to question number 3, then go to question number 4, A, B. Okay, so start the question and do the sub questions also in order. Okay, write the question number as given. Don't change the number. If it's written 1, 2, 3, 4, write 1, 2, 3, 4. Or if it's written A, B, C, D, write that. Okay. Now, presentation should be neat, clean and legible. It should be clear. So don't scribble. Okay, don't make it untidy. Especially for your geography, map work. If you have to support your answer with the diagrams, if you have to support your answer with the rough map work, please do it with pencils. Don't use a pen. Okay, the next important thing is the marks that has been allotted. Okay, now in this, let me just tell you, minimum marks for geography answers is 2 and maximum is 3. Okay, so write your answers. You don't have to write long answers, just write short answers to the point. Okay, and especially like if differences, especially for this, like if differences are being asked, like for example, if they ask you the difference between Western Ghats and the Eastern Ghats, okay, and it's carrying 3 marks, okay, just don't write 3 points, at least write 4 to 5 points for that. So that is what you have to remember, and leave a line after every answer which is already known to you all. Okay, and don't write one word answer. Supposing if they ask you, you know, if a question says, okay, what type of climate that India experiences, don't write tropical monsoon climate. You always start your answer properly and don't start again your answer with because. Okay, write proper answers. The most important thing is highlighting the keywords. Okay, and next one is when writing differences, always make a column. So when a difference has been asked, you always make a column and then write the differences in each column. So these are some certain general tips that I would like to tell you all. Okay, so please follow this. Okay, now I told you all together you have 20 chapters in your textbook. Okay, and this 20 chapters has been divided into 6 units. Now please be careful when you are preparing yourself. Okay, when you're preparing for your exams, you have to know how the question, from where the questions are going to come. If I choose this set, how many questions that I will how many questions I will get from that set. So this is very important. Okay, first of all, in geography there's no choice in the sense all the 20 chapters are important, because when you're attempting the compulsory part, 20 marks objective questions, okay, you will get the questions from the entire syllabus. But the part 2, the second portion of your the second part of your question paper, you have a choice here, because I told you altogether you'll be getting 7 sets of questions, and from the 7 set that you get, you have to choose any 4. In this you have a choice. Okay, so I'll be doing unit wise later, which are the chapters in each unit. Okay, I'll be doing it later, but let me just tell you that unit 1, I said 20 chapters have been divided into 6 units. Okay, so unit 1, okay, from unit 1 you'll get 1 set of question. From unit 2 you'll get 1 set of question. From unit 3 you get 2 set of question. From unit 4 you'll get 2 set of question, and from unit 5 you get 1 set of question. Okay, and from the above choose any 4 sets of question. So just let me tell you, supposing if you choose unit 3 and unit 4, from unit 3 you're getting 2 sets, unit 4 you're getting 2 sets, so you're getting 4 sets, so you'll be able to do 4 sets of questions. Okay, but if you're choosing unit 3 and unit 4 only, you have to be thorough with the entire thing, because you don't know what type of questions that might be. You can choose from unit 1, you can choose 1 from unit 2, and you can choose 2 from unit 3. So the choice is up to you, but I've just given you how you have to choose the questions, and from which unit how many sets of questions are going to come. Now in the next slide I'm going to show you all that each unit, which are the chapters and what are the probable questions. Okay, now let me start with the first unit, that is unit 1. Okay, under unit 1 you have around 6 chapters: locational setting, geological evolution and structure, the relief division of India, the drainage pattern, climate and natural vegetation. So from these 6 chapters that you have, you'll get 1 set of question. So if you want to choose unit 1, that means you have to study all the 6 chapters, and from the 6 chapters you will get 1 set of question. So from these chapters, the possible question that might come. When I say possible question that might come, don't rely only on these questions. Okay, but I will not say these are the questions that will be there. Okay, there are possibilities, or these type of questions may be asked. Okay, the first one is latitudinal and longitudinal extent of India. Now when you do this latitudinal longitudinal extent of India, now please be careful, sometimes you might get a map also. Okay, a map of India showing the latitudinal extent and longitudinal extent, and there may be lines drawn at 68 degree, that is the westernmost part of India, and another line may be drawn in the easternmost part of India, that is the Kutch region in the west and Arunachal in the east. Okay, there may be 2 lines that has been drawn, and then they might ask you, in the first line it may be written A, and the second line it may be written B. So they might ask you the figures: 68, 97 degrees, 25 minutes. So okay, so latitudinal and longitudinal extension is very important. Then another important thing is the comparative study. Now in the first chapter, you have to compare India along with China and Australia. So comparative study regarding the area of these 3 countries, the latitude and longitude extent of these countries, north-south extension, east-west extensions are very, very important. Please go through that. The next is geological evolution of the Himalayas. The second chapter, from the second chapter, one of the most common questions that they ask you is how were the Himalayas formed? Okay, so that explanation has already been done. Okay, so formation of the Himalayas may be a very important question, and along with this, they might ask you between the two land masses of the Angara and the Gondwana. Okay, millions of years ago, there was a sea. It was been in between these two block of lands. What is the name of that sea? And you know it is the Tethys Sea, or that Tethys Sea is also known as a geosyncline. So they might ask you, name the geosyncline that was being formed between the two land masses of Angara and the Gondwana. So these type of questions might be there. And then you come to the different eras. Okay, the eras have to be studied here. Okay, and then you come to the relief division, important relief division of India, and the differences. Like for example, you have the Himalayas. Okay, the first relief division is the Himalayas. When you're doing the Himalayas, the three important division of the Himalayas like Himadri, Himachal, and Shivaleks, the significance of these mountains. Okay, this Himadri, Himachal, Himadri, Himachal, and the Shivalek. The importance of these three parallel ranges. The extension of the Himalayas. Okay, so offshoots of the Himalayas. They might ask you to write down the names of these offshoots, east offshoots and the west offshoots of the Himalayas. Then you come to the Indo-Gangetic plains. Okay, when you're doing the Indo-Gangetic plains now, you have to be very careful. There are some geographical terms like Bur. What is a Bur? What is a Chos? Chos are seasonal lands. Okay, then they might ask you about the Bhabar, the Tarai, the Bhangar, and the Khadar, and the differences. These are the common questions. So please go through that. Okay, and then another thing is like they might ask you the difference between the west coast and the east coast, the two group of islands, Andaman and Nicobar Islands and Lakshadweep, the difference between that. Okay, and another important thing that you have to remember is that they might ask you name the oldest landmass of India, that is peninsular India, the highest peak in the peninsular region. Okay, that is Anai Mudi. Highest peak in the Western Ghat, Anai Mudi, highest peak in the Eastern Ghat, that is Mahendragiri. It's all there in the textbook, but these are the possible questions. And then from this climatic chapter, please be careful. You may either get a climatic table or a climatic graph. Okay. Now, climatic table and climatic graph, if you see your previous question papers, either they will ask you the climatic table or a climatic graph. Like at the back of your climatic chapter, there are around 7 graphs that has been there in the question, there in the textbook, okay, about Leh, then I think Jaisalmer is there, then you have Delhi, Calcutta, Chennai. So please go through those maps, okay, those graphs, and those graphs will be there in your question paper, and they might ask you questions from there. And or they might ask you the climate, they might give you the climatic table where station A and station B has been given, where you have to find the range of temperature, whether the station is near the coast or far away from the coast. So those type of questions are possible. Okay, and natural vegetation chapter, go through the characteristic feature of different forest area like tropical evergreen forest, why it's known as tropical evergreen forest, why it's known as tropical deciduous forest. So those terms are very important. So if you are choosing the question from unit 1, these are the important things. Okay, now you come to the second unit. Now second unit, you have chapters like population, migration trends, demographic attributes, rural settlement, and urban settlement. Now, I suggest you all to choose this unit because this unit, you get direct questions. Okay, the questions are mostly direct, and it's easy to understand also. And there are certain common terms that has been asked almost every year. It's repeated. So, please, if you want to, if a choice has been given to you all, I think it'll be better if you choose a question from unit 2. Okay, So when you start with the population chapter, now first thing that you have to remember is that name a state with the highest population, the state with the least population. Why do you think so population distribution in India is uneven? Okay, what are the reasons behind why population is high in the Indo-Gangetic areas, in the northern plains of our country, or why do you think so the population is less in the Himalayan areas, okay, or the border regions of our country? Those are the questions. Now, what do you mean by density of population? Okay, how the density of population has been calculated, what is the reason behind low density of population in A place and a B place, a state with the highest density of population, a state with the lowest density of population. So these are the common questions from population. Then you come to migration trends. Okay, now when you start with this migration trends, now the definitions are the basic concepts, the migration trend chapter, the basic concepts are very important. You have to know the definition of what is migration, what is commutation. Okay, then you have what is who's a migrant person, definition of that. Okay, then in migration, out migration, temporary migration, permanent migration, stepwise migration. So these are the basic concepts. The definition of this is very important. Okay, and beside this, another important question that has been repeated, okay, several times, that question has been repeated, is what is a push factor and a pull factor in population? What is interstate and intrastate migration? Now, push factor, pull factor, the reasons for push factor and the pull factors, okay, you have to know that. And another important where students tend to make mistake out here is the difference between inter and intra. Please be careful. Inter means from one state to another state. Intra means within the states. So migration within the state is called intra, and from one state to another state is called inter. Okay, and another important question that they might ask you is whether male migration or the female migration is more in inter or more in intrastate. So this you have to remember. Then you have to know the consequences of migration. What will happen when migration of people are taking places, when people are migrating from one place to another? Does it have a positive consequences? Does it have a negative consequences? This is important. Then you come to definitions. Okay, there are different, like you have natural growth, migratory growth, okay, then demographic divide. Okay, then you also have sex ratio, reasons for low sex ratio in India. Why do you think India has always been referred to as a country with young population? Okay, so these are the population, participation rate is there. So those different terms are there. Please go through this. Okay, then you come to metropolis, megalopolis, the difference between that. Okay, metro and mega. Population of 1 to 5 million is called metropolis, and more than 5 million is called megalopolis. And one of the most important thing, if you see in this unit, there is a diagram, especially from this chapter, rural settlement. There's a diagram that shows a different rural settlement pattern in India. Okay, so sometimes they might give you a diagram, and then they might tell you to identify the rural settlement pattern. Okay, like for example, you have a diagram showing the linear settlement pattern. You have a diagram showing the star-like rural settlement pattern. So you have to know the diagrams. The diagrams are all given in your textbook. Please go through that. Okay, and then this chapter on urban settlements. Okay, there are terms like break-in transport theory. Okay, conurbation, ribbon settlement. So these terms very important. And what are the reasons for, what are the drawbacks of overpopulation? What are the reasons that leads to increase in the population in a particular area? So all these are the common question that comes from the unit 2. Okay, now we come to from unit 2. These 5 chapters are there, one set of question. Then you come to the next unit 3. Unit 3, please let me tell you, from Unit 3 you get 2 sets of questions. The chapter included is environmental management and the land use pattern, the water resources and the types of irrigation, agriculture, fisheries, minerals and power resources. From these chapter you get 2 set of questions. Okay, and out here this unit is also easy. You can choose this unit also. So from this chapter on environmental management and land use pattern, the most important question that they might ask you is, what do you mean by a land use pattern? So when a land has been divided into various division according to its utility, that is the land use pattern. Okay, so the division of the land. Then there's a term called law of inheritance. Okay, so it's very important where when you're doing this chapter, land use pattern, law of inheritance plays a very important role. The reason in India why the land holdings are very small is because of the law of inheritance, which means the land has been passed generation after generation, so the land is getting divided and subdivided. Okay, and it's making agriculture impossible on a larger scale, and that's all because of the law of inheritance. Okay, then you have to compare the quality of land that India possesses with China. So that comparative study is important. Okay, then you come to this water resources and types of irrigation. That is advantages and disadvantages. Now, first thing that you have to remember is modern irrigation system and ancient irrigation system. Advantages and disadvantages of this modern and ancient methods. Okay, that's important. And then another important questions repeated is conservation of water resources. Okay, what are the different methods like rainwater harvesting, watershed management, okay, rooftop harvesting. So different methods of conserving water. Okay, and difference between then from the chapter agriculture, the different types of agriculture, like you have intensive agriculture, extensive commercial agriculture, intensive commercial agriculture. Then you have subsistence type of farming. What do you mean by plantation farming? What do you mean by monoculture? What do you mean by mixed farming? Okay, so these are the differences that you have to remember. And then they might ask you questions on, what is crop rotation? What is crop combination? What is multiple cropping? What do you mean by wet and dry farming? These are the common questions. Okay, and beside this, geographical and climatic condition. Now, when you're doing this agriculture chapter, now one of the common questions that they will ask you is the geographical conditions required for the growth of any crop and a climatic requirement. Okay. Now, there's a total difference out here. When they talk about a climatic requirement, take for example, what is the climatic condition required for the growth of rice? Okay. Now, when you're writing about the climatic conditions, okay, you just have to mention about the temperature and the rainfall. Like for example, rice requires a temperature around 18 degrees to 32 degrees Celsius. Understood? Wheat requires 10 to 15 degree. Rainfall, rice is a water loving plant, requires rainfall more than 150 centimeters. That's a climatic requirement. But if they ask you geographical requirement, then you have to mention the temperature, you have to mention the rainfall, then you also have to mention the types of soil in which it is being grown. That's the difference between climatic and geographical conditions. So in geographical condition, try to add soil also. If humidity has been given, you can mention that. Okay, but mostly in most of the crops, they will just mention about the temperature, rainfall and the types of soil. Okay, then come to the next one, use of technology in agriculture. Now today, agriculture plays a very important role in India. Okay, so and India, as you know, is an agricultural country. So what has led to the, improvement of agriculture in India? That is very important, and that is the Green Revolution. The methods adopted in the Green Revolution plays a very important role in this use of technology in agriculture, like mechanization, use of irrigational facilities, using of manures and pesticides and insecticides and fungicides and all this. Okay, then you come to disadvantages or the drawbacks of each and every crop that is being growing, because this, in spite of all this medicines and insecticides and pesticides that is being spread and all that, crops are still being faced with, problems like, like for example, cotton has, weevils attacking it. There are certain insects and all which kills the crops and all that. Okay, sometimes irrigation facilities are not being provided, sometimes fertilizers are not being added. okay, because the condition of the farmers are not very good. Farmers are not very, very rich. They cannot afford to spend a huge amount of money in buying this pesticides and manures and all that, okay. But along with this drawbacks and along with this disadvantages, you have to remember that the government is, trying the best to provide the best to the farmers by providing them with agricultural loans, okay, and even providing them with subsidies. So those are the steps that is being taken. Then you come to the next chapter, fisheries, okay. Under fisheries, you have to remember a few things like fishing in Japan. Okay, what are the factors that leads to, or what are the factors that makes Japan the leading producer of fish in the world? Okay, so there are several points, at least 4 to 5 points has to be remembered, like the meeting of the warm current and the cold current, like Oyoshio and Kuroshio. Japanese fishermen are good navigators. They use modern technologies. Okay, so like this, those points are very important. And along with this, they might ask you what are the drawbacks of fishing in spite of India lying on the tip of the Indian Ocean, one of the most important ocean that you have in the world, which is least exploited. Although it lies on the tip of the Indian Ocean, why do you think so fishing has not yet developed in India? So the reason behind is because lack of technology. We don't have proper tools and technologies and all that. Indian fishermen are not good navigators. India experiences a tropical type of a climate which is not suitable for fishes to be kept for a very long period of time. We don't have a proper canning, freezing facilities and all that. Okay, and one of the most important thing is that most of the Indians are vegetarians, so the production is less. Okay, so these are the reasons you have to remember. Almost the same reason goes for Bangladesh, except this point, like Bangladeshis are also very fond of fishes, but Indians, majority of them are vegetarians. This point cannot be written down. Okay, so that has to be memorized. And then you have to know about the types of fishing, okay, and methods of fishing, like trawling, seeding, lining are the methods in how the fishes are being caught, and pelagic fishing and demersal fishing, inshore. These are the types of fishing. You have to know the differences, okay. And the last and the common question that is being asked under fishing is conservative policies and preservative. How do you preserve fish and how do you conserve fish? Okay, conservation of fish is being done by checking the pollution in the waters of the oceans and all that. Then indiscriminate fishing should be stopped. Artificial fertilization of eggs should take place. So like this, conservation methods have been adopted. And for preservation of fishes, fishes has to be dried, salted, okay. They should have a proper freezing facilities or a storage facilities, okay, and bottling and tinning, okay. So that is how you can preserve fish for a long period of time, okay. And then you come to minerals and power resources, and under minerals and power resources you have to know the important minerals, okay, and the uses of those minerals, and at least 1 or 2 states that you have in India, okay, where production of these minerals are been there, okay. So state-wise distribution is very important. The uses of these minerals are very important, okay. And under this mineral and power resources, I think you need to study about conventional and non-conventional sources of energy also. Conventional, like coal and iron ore and all that. Like when you do coal, iron ore and all that, you have to remember that coal has always been referred to as a black gold, and petroleum has been referred to as a liquid gold or a mineral oil and all that. So those are very important. When you do iron ore, it's always known as a backbone of modern civilization. Why? Different types of iron ore, like you have hematite, magnetite, limonite, siderite, different types of coal like anthracite, bituminous, peat, lignite. Varieties are very important. At least 2 states in India where it has been found. What are the uses, okay? And when you do the non-conventional source of energy, like you have the biogas, you have the energy that has been derived from the sun, the wind, tidal energy, okay, and where do you find in India. So these are some of the important things that you have to know for minerals and power resources in India. So this is unit 3. Okay, then you have unit 4 and unit 5. Unit 4 and unit 5, which I'll be doing it in the next class, along with people analysis, okay, and solving, try to solve the questions of 2019. Thank you.